So we're here with Alvar McKeown. Is it Coke or Sturstown here?
We're actually just about halfway, but midway, about 3 miles each. So I suppose Sturstown address.
Sturstown address, that's fine. Alvar McKeown in Sturstown here.
Well, it'll be 13 years coming now in June since the robot started milking. And the herd would be basically a Holstein herd. And well, I had a parter in beforehand. I moved up. Always liked the idea of the robot for, well, the way it does, it frees up your time and I suppose a bit more natural for the cows and everything. So I always fancied going down that route, and when I got the chance, I went that way. And I suppose since the robots went in, I realised at the start of a few slow milking cows, and I could see that they were a problem, like taking up too much time. And since the robot has went in, I've started breeding for milk speed and teat placement, anything just to try and speed up the process of the cows getting through the robot.
Yeah. So how many cows you run at the minute, roughly? Or?
At the minute, I think there's roughly, I think it's 80 or 81 maybe milking today now.
Milking one. How many dry then?
I'll keep probably about 15 dry, something like that there. Right. Plus then there'll be heifers coming in as well.
So total of around about 95 of a herd, essentially?
Roughly about that, yeah. Can run anywhere between 90 and 100 now.
Yeah. And that's on one Lely A3 Astronaut.
Like, even at the minute, like there today, the cows, I think they're averaging is about 31 kilos there too, like, so they're milking fairly well even at that.
Yeah.
And the parter beforehand, I think I'd been milking around 70.
Yeah. And
I cut back and went on to the robot, but like, as I said, I had a few cows. So you didn't notice them the same in the parter, how slow they were, until you start looking at your figures in the robot and you realise, here's a cow, like, she's getting milk 3 times a day, it's taking maybe 3/4 of an hour for her to milk, like, so that's a big loss.
Yeah. And so you mentioned that you always maybe liked the idea of robotic milking. Is this something you sort of maybe seen the technology evolve over the years and you always wanted to go robotic, or what was the main reasons or drivers towards going with it?
Well, I had seen it a few years before that. I remember seeing, I think it was Belmore's show one year, there's no robot, there's just a stand there, and I looked at it and watched it. There's a video going on. Just thought to myself, yeah, that's the way I want to go. And then after that, every year, it just kind of, if I was doing a wee bit of renovations in the houses, it always in the back of my mind that I'll try and do this that'll maybe suit a robot down the years. So, but like I said, it's basically probably more natural for the cows too, like, rather than being milked twice a day. Like, there's cows can get milked 3-4 times a day. It's a lot less pressure on the cow too.
Yeah.
That first year is a bit of upheaval for them, like, and well, personally myself, my robot went in where my parter was, and I was milking in a what do you call it, like a substitute parter for a couple of months, and my yields dropped that first year, but then after that, once the cows calved in again, you did see the yields go up significantly then, yeah.
And what they've went from, like, what sort of litres would they been up?
I'd say they went up at least 500 litres a cow.
Is this an 8-bit classic or next? Or?
It'll be the classic, it's one of the earlier ones.
One of the early A3s. Yeah. And you're saying it's going 13 years now?
13 years coming now in June, started milking, yeah.
So how's it been since you started?
The reliability's been pretty good now, and support's been pretty good now since Jim took on the franchise. I was here before he took it over, and at the very start it was a wee bit dodgy now, but once Jim took it on, it got a lot better.
It's been going well. What was the Lely guided cow flow system from back in the day whenever Alvar first started?
It was changed basically because good enough idea, cows could, once they came in here, they had to stay till they got milked, but especially if you're busy, if a cow came in that would have been a more backward or quieter cow, she could have been standing in here all day maybe, and the more dominant cows had pushed her back, which wasn't ideal either, so she'd been in here without food or water, like, so we took the gates off, and now, well, basically in the morning and evenings, I just hang the gates back on again if I need to bring a few cows in that needs milk.
Yeah.
So that's.
So you use this.
I use this just as collection pen, yeah.
Yeah. The outer part of feeders then, basically topping up high yielders and that, or is everything getting a little bit, or?
Everything's getting a little bit, because I suppose with me, the amount of cows I have on the robot, and then they're all pretty fast milking, they can't get enough in the robot. So that's why I'm feeding out two out of parlour feeders and end of another one, and plan to put in a third one, and maybe give even less meal in the robot. So I have a few cows going through the robot at the minute. I have to do like priority feeding, sorry, yeah. So I'm losing a wee bit of time that way too. Okay. There's cows, some of them might have them down to maybe about 5-6 kilos a day in the robot, even the higher yielding ones, because you just can't get it out quick enough in the robot. So they're been topped up all the time in the out parlours. And it's all fed through the out parlour feeders in the robot. I don't diet feed or anything here, it's just silage. She more or less does what she wants to do.
Yeah.
I'd say probably at the minute some of them cows were probably out this morning, they've come back in and they're milked now, and they'll wait till, you know, when it comes to around 1 o'clock, you'll see them maybe starting to get ready to go out then to get onto the fresh grass again.
Get changed at 1
o'clock.
Yeah. Do you find then everything then goes out to get the fresh grass?
Yeah, you'll find there'll be, once the gate opens, there's usually a rush. You'll get maybe at least 10-12 cows will go out more or less together. You've ones will come in and they'll get milked, and they'll know they don't want to go back out onto the same paddock. They know they'll hang about here, and they'll probably take a wee bite of silage, and then they'll go again.
Yeah. And you never chase anything out of here, essentially?
Very rarely at the start. Once it started in the springtime, I'll chase them out, and heifers, something that's maybe doesn't know how to use the gate yet.
Yeah, so just heifers training up.
Heifers training up.
Maybe at the start of the year.
At the start of the year. But it all depends on the weather as well. If you get a cold day, if you had been here in a wet, cold day, there'd probably been more cows in here.
Yeah. Here just at the silage booker, so you're just feeding straight silage all the time?
All the time, yeah.
All the time. During the summer, winter, good weather, bad weather, they have access to silage all the time?
Always have access to silage, yeah.
And you're not mixing nothing in that, no straw, no nothing, just...
Not at the minute. Well, that silage there, there'd been a bit of harder cycle, a wee bit hard last year. Some years I would mix it, or put a bit of hay over the top of it if I found the cows were dung a wee bit too soft.
Yeah.
I found hay, they'd eat hay better than straw, and it seemed to tighten them up a wee bit.
Yeah. And in terms of silage making, your first cuts, when are you usually taking it, or?
Hoping to get it off, say about the 3rd week in May.
3rd week in May, and then every 6-8 weeks after that or so.
It's roughly that, yeah. Basically, morning and evening, you come out, you'll check if you've any cows, you put them into the pen, close them in. You'll feed calves, you'll bed cubicles. And roughly about an hour will do all that, and then the silage was fed during the day or whenever the cows need it. There's no set time for getting silage, so probably about another half hour or so we'll give them their silage.
Yeah. So couple of hours a day for your regular routine stuff, 2.5 hours, suppose you include in the silage.
Just all depends. If you have a lot of fresh cows, calves to feed, it'll take a bit longer, and can take a bit less if you have nothing calved or nothing's went wrong. They'll go out up this right hand side, and that's the way they go to get out of the grazeway, and then they go out to the paddock, the right hand paddock, I suppose the A paddock if you want to call it, and when they're coming back in again, they'll come in that way. You'll see cows coming in there now. And then in the afternoon they'll change to the B paddock, and when they're coming back in from the B paddock, we'll come down this side of the fence then, coming back in. And my grazeway, it's set away from the house, which at the time I couldn't do anything about because I needed access to other sheds, and I think it's actually worked out better for me, because I've heard of people saying cows, when they go out to the grazeway, they'll just keep going around in circles and trying to get back out again, whereas my cows, if she can't get out to the grass, she has to come back into the house, which I think has worked out okay for me. It happened by accident or by chance, but I think it's probably worked.
Paddock or an AB, or
I'm an AB.
AB paddock, and C back in the house, or just free access back in the house?
Just free access back to the house. They've access into it all the time.
Okay.
And my paddocks, I change them at the minute they're not out full time, but once they get going full time, they'll be changed, one in the morning and one in the afternoon.
Yeah.
At the start, the first year when I let them out, I was going kind of the same as what I was with the parlour, giving them fresh grass morning and evening. And then I started finding out that when it came to the middle of the day, especially on a nice day, the robot was sitting quiet, nobody was in, they went out, suppose they got their bellies filled and they lay down, they were happy enough lying there. So I started thinking to myself, I'm going to have to do something, and so I changed my gate time so that they're getting fresh grass that mid-afternoon whenever there's really no movement.
Yeah.
And I found then that once I started doing that and they realised they're getting fresh grass, you're coming in at very rarely have to go and bring a cow in out of the paddocks now at all.
Yes, that was one of the questions we had is, how often do you collect cows out of the paddocks or chase them out of the paddocks? Or
Very, very rarely. I'll have anything. I'll change my fencers now mornings and evenings, for the next.
Yeah.
I'll change my morning fencer for the evening paddock, and the paddocks are always empty. 99% of the time they're empty.
Yeah. And I think that's when we're looking into this a little bit more. Cows naturally move at dusk and dawn themselves, because they're essentially preyed on animals, and so they'll naturally feed quite a lot and move quite a lot.
Well,
morning and night.
I find that too. Like even if whenever they get to the stage where they've access 24 hours, you'll find that during the night the house is nearly always full. If you ever look into the house, and it's probably once it starts to get daylight, they'll head out, and the same at night time. You'll notice them there. Once it's coming near dark, whoever's left in the paddock usually comes in. It's not very often, like unless it's a really nice warm summer's night, they'll maybe stay out all night, but very rarely they'll stay out.
Yeah, and as you say, that change the gate then at 1 o'clock helps them move then.
Yeah, it moves them in the middle of the day when they're
at
that time that we're always found.
Plenty of visits.
Yeah.
How many visits a day are you roughly getting then?
I'm usually getting around about 200. They're milking, I think.
What's
about
that per cow per day?
I think it's about 2.5, 2.5 or so, maybe.
2.5 visits a day.
Yeah, 2.5, 2.6. I think it is the minute. Yeah. To check.
Do you measure grass? Or do you measure grass? I suppose I should say.
Don't actually measure, just look at it whenever I'm out changing fencers. I'll take a walk through it maybe once a week, and don't physically measure it, just do it by eye.
Would you do take a wee walk around the paddocks once a week? Yeah,
I probably would. Even when I'm out shifting the fencers, you're looking around, you're looking at the other paddocks beside it, and where do you think they're going to be going next?
Yeah. So you're not going to the extent of doing a grass wedge or putting it into a programme or nothing like that?
No, nothing like that.
That's all right. Just let this girl walk on by. So we're here and they're grazing this paddock out. So what height do you hope to go in at, and what sort of height do you go out at? Or
yeah, well, you hope to get in, I suppose, about around about 5 inches in height, something like that, 4 or 5 inches. Yeah. And I possibly maybe would graze it fairly tight, I suppose, maybe to try and keep the cows moving, because my robot is busy, but I'd like to keep it grazed fairly tight now. Yeah.
So you're going down to sort of just an inch or so then at the end. That's I suppose. What about maybe whenever there's too much grass or too little grass, what do you do there then? Or
too much, you can either sometimes I take a bit out for baling, or maybe have a batch of heifers or something I'll put onto a paddock or two to graze, and again, if I'm running short, you just let them eat more silage in the house, increase that, and maybe increase the meal a little too if they need a little help that way.
So you've got a fairly flexible system. You're not just totally wedded to one way or the other. You can
do whatever you need to do.
Yeah, you can adjust it,
tweak it, like whatever.
Yeah,
whatever you need.
On the weather. Well, maybe see this paddock here. I take it they're just about to go into. Maybe what's the story here? Or
that'll probably be in maybe about a week's time or so. I think there's another paddock next door, be more grass on it. So
okay. So I suppose how many acres are you allowing for the grazing area here? Do we want to move, or we're going to include them all on the stampede here?
Overrun. Watch yourself. I've got
27 acres.
27. That's all I have now at this side of the road. the maximum.
So, so is that basically roughly an acre per day or so, or is that?
Probably wouldn't even be getting that. Not at this time of the year, there wouldn't be. Normally in the spring, I can even maybe take a paddock or two out and bale it, and would try to do my reseeding in the springtime.
Yes.
I'll try to reseed maybe 3 to 4 acres in the spring, so it leaves me with the grass in the autumn, because I couldn't afford to take it out in the autumn.
Yeah. So the autumn time you're using your full 27,
Yeah.
and the spring you'd only be using 20 or so.
Maybe only 20 sometimes, just depends on the growth.
Yeah, and I suppose you just have to adjust that all the time, depending on what
you just adjust your
growth is doing.
You change whenever you need to. They haven't got any fertiliser this spring at all now. Some of them got a wee bit of slurry. It just depends on what the growth's like. I would go in maybe every other grazing, and it wouldn't even be a bag per acre, maybe about 3/4 of a bag per acre.
Okay.
Maybe 40 kilos, 50 kilos per acre, something like that there.
Oh, are you putting any just
straight nitrogen now? I don't need anything else. The ground's fine for phosphate and potash.
Yeah.
Which is good too, like the ground does be soil tested, like, and pH and everything's fine on it, so it's just basically straight nitrogen's all I'm sowing here.
Good stuff. And so overall then, your feed rate, what would you be? Obviously it varies depending on the time of year, but what would be your feed rate for the cows then?
The concentrates?
Yeah.
Well, I'd be aiming to get around about 3. I think at the minute it's running about 3.1 or 3.2, but I'd be hoping to start to bring the meal down a bit again. My fertility wouldn't be too bad at the moment. I've gone more so maybe down the line of an Angus bull run with the cows, and I'll just doing my heifers with 6 semen. Maybe part of the reason why I got the numbers where I am, a couple of years ago I had a bit of bother with TB and I culled pretty heavy, and now since that I don't like keeping too many extra heifers around me, so as I say, my numbers are up. That's maybe one thing with a robot. You'll find you'll now be more ruthless when it comes to culling.
Yeah, you can't have any passengers.
No, you can't. You'll a couple of years ago I did let dry cows out, but it gave me a lot of problems later on.
Right.
So I haven't done it since.
So they're in controlled diet?
They're in controlled diet. What I did do last summer now with the paddocks, I went through them with the mower and I mowed them down tight as if I was mowing for silage.
Yes.
In the middle of the summer, and raked it up and dumped it, and it left me with a nice clean fresh grass coming again.
Almost like aftergrass?
Almost like aftergrass, yeah. Took a wee bit of time, but I think I'll do it again this year. It seemed to work out okay last year, because
just tidying them up.
Just tidied them up, took off any old tufts and dead grass and stuff right down to the ground.
You're probably doing a few paddocks like that at that stage, like that have just been grazed out.
Just after the cows would have grazed them, I'd have went in and mowed them down as tight as I could, and then raked it up and gathered it off the paddocks, and it seemed to freshen them up well now. The cows cleaned them up again afterwards.
Good stuff. Alvar, I promise this is going to be the last question.
Right, you said that
last
before.
Few questions, but overall, how would you summarise going robotic milking? What would you say to somebody thinking about going into robotic milking with Lely Astronauts? I've
been very happy with them now. Like, I don't think I'd ever go back to a parlour anyway, so I suppose that tells you a lot.
Yeah.
I think if the astronaut went, I think the cows would have to go along with it.
Right, fair enough. So
no, it does. There's people will maybe think you've a robot, you've nothing to do. You've still plenty to do, but it frees up your time. You're not tied to that morning and evening. You have things to do, but you can do them when it suits you. You're not always looking at your watch.
So the flexibility.
Flexibility means a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
And plus, I suppose the flexibility for the cows too. Like, at the minute they're doing what they want to do.
Yeah.
They can come and go as they want, and like at the minute, if you go to move them anywhere, they're kind of looking at you thinking, "What are you doing here?" Like, they're not used to people forcing them about. Like, so.
Yeah.
I think they're a lot contenter and quieter as well.
Yeah. No, well, look, as I say, I think what you're doing here is fantastic, because I think it's the ultimate for a cow-free flow traffic, cow freedom, essentially, They can graze when they want, they can milk when they want, they can go and eat silage when they want, they can lie in when they want. I really do like a system. Well done. Super
Thanks.
job.
Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you.